So there's a mini that's been on my shelf for about, 5 years. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I better get this guy done.
Alright, yes, let's get this guy done. It's a very cool miniature. I absolutely love this thing. Some type of skeleton lord with little tiny skeletons as its legs. How cool is that? Look at this guy. He deserves better than sitting on the shelf. Let's get some paint on him. So I'm going to take different shades of white and off-white, and we're going to base coat all of the skeleton parts. This is going to be a speed paint job, so we are just going fast and furious on this guy. We're going to have a lot of fun, we're going to throw a lot of colors around, and we're going to get him done. No sense in him just sitting on the shelf collecting dust anymore. He deserves to be in some type of Dungeons & Dragons game. Remember, the goal is to paint and have fun. Try not to get too frustrated with any of the process. Here I grabbed some of that titanium white, which is the whitest white you can get, and I added that to the mix. I'm going to put that on the upper parts of the bone. Remember, the light areas at the top, darker areas at the bottom on a miniature. Now I'm taking some black and I'm going to paint this over the areas that I'm going to paint silver in the future. I think that helps silver look really nice. And I'm going to take this brown color and I'm going to put that in the areas that I'm going to paint gold in the future. So silver, I base coat in black. Gold, I base coat in brown.
Silver and gold.
Here's how he's looking. Next, I'm going to paint all the wood areas. There's a lot of wood on this guy. I'm going to do that in a lighter brown. But I'm going to skip the spikes on his shoulder pads, because I'm going to get that all messed up in the near future. And I'll go back and do the lighter brown on the shoulder pad spikes later. Again, we're just having fun. We're getting the base coats down quick. Woo! They're not super thin, but they're not super thick either. I would never paint with a super thick base coat, but since this is just fast and furious, they're not super thin either. We're going to use rucksack tan to paint up these wraps on his swords. And I decided that I'm going to do these shoulder pads in silver as well, so I'm putting some black down on those now too. And since I have the black out, I'm going to go ahead and fill in the eyes and the nose of the skulls. I'm going to take a dark silver color, and I'm going to start dry brushing all the areas I want to paint silver. Dry brushing, stippling. I'm going over the brown too that I'm going to eventually paint gold, because I like silver on top of the brown to act as an underneath highlight for the gold. It'll give the gold a little bit of a punch when I apply it. Now I'm going to take some of this lighter silver and I'm going to dry brush and stipple that on as well to the metal areas. Even the parts that I'm going to paint gold in the future. It's kind of a fun process. You just kind of go at it and you have fun. No worries about being too messy. This model is okay to look messy too, since it's just kind of a big skeleton creature. This has been a blast so far. Just get a zone out and paint this mini. Is he going to be perfect? No. Is he going to win competitions? No. But am I having fun? Yeah. And is he going to be done? Yes. Did I mean to rhyme? No. Let's add some rust to these swords. We're going to take this bloodstone color and we're going to stipple this all over the place. I really enjoy stippling. Stippling's been a ton of fun for me lately. I do it all the time anymore. We're just going to build up some colors into the metal areas. The rust color I'm going to focus towards the bottom of the metal areas, as in water maybe seeps down and stays in some of those areas. I love painting rusty, junky things. This guy is perfect for that. Originally I was going to paint his shoulder pads like a red or something, but I went, you know what? I'm just going to have fun and do the silver color. And just put more rust and stuff on there. Here's what he looks like so far. Now I'm going to take this orangish color and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to just stipple it all over the bottom parts of the areas and build up some of that color. As you can see, I use my fingers and I tap on a lot of the areas that I do this with, and it's just kind of for a quick blend. Again, I'm not trying to be perfect or anything, but boy, this is fun. You can turn on a movie or a podcast or something, zone out, paint a mini. As you can see, the colors are building up a little bit now. Now I'm going to take some Crick's Bane base, it's a green color, and I'm going to mix it with this contrast medium. I just love this color. I put it on so many things now, especially if the thing's going to be dark and grimy. And I'm going to put that all over the bone color, and I'm going to tie in that color to the entire model too. I'm going to leave his sash, all the cloth, alone, but as you'll see during this video, I'm actually going to take a lot of the colors that I used on this model and put it in all the different parts of the model. The metallics are going to stay in the metal areas, and the sash is going to keep on its own, but all the other colors I'm going to throw all over the place. It's going to tie in the colors all together. At least I think anyways. And it's a really fun process. But as you can see, the screen's going on the wood, it's going on the bone, it's going on the metal. It's going all over the place. I love this color. Now I'm going to take Gun Corpse Brown, which is a lighter brown color, and I'm essentially going to do the same thing. Now this is mainly used for the bone, but like I said before, I'm just going to throw it in all over the place too to help tie in all these colors and have fun. Don't forget to have fun.
Toasty!
I'm somewhat avoiding the upper parts of the model. Try to keep that lighter, but I'm letting those browns just kind of soak into the model. Whether it's bone or the metal or the wood, just going all out. And tap some in on the sword here, even get the bandages. It's a fun and fairly quick process. You just go for it. Don't think about it, just do it. Just have fun. As you can see, he's darkening up quite a bit, and all the colors are starting to tie in together. He's starting to come around anyways. Now to reclaim some of that lighter bone color, I'm taking titanium white again. I'm doing a dry brush on the upper parts of all the bone areas. Just going fast and furious again, like I said. How many times am I going to say fast and furious? Now I'm going to take that same lighter color. I'm going to do some edge highlighting on the bone areas. The upper parts of the skulls, the teeth, the ribs. Just a little bit here and there on the upper parts. Definitely want to get his skull, the main skull. We'll do his brow, upper part of his nose, and the teeth. Oh yeah, and the crown. The bony crown is cool. Pops a little bit too since we darkened down everything with all those washes. And he's coming along all right. I'm going to take some aluminum from Vallejo. This is extremely bright. I'm going to add some scratches to his blade. I'm going to do a little edge highlighting on the blade too. Doing a handful of little nicks here on the edges. These are just a bunch of little dashes. They didn't really turn out the greatest. But again, I'm just going quick and trying to have fun. Not too worried about getting hung up on how perfect this thing looks. And it's an old junky skeleton, so how perfect does it need to look? Get his little breastplate here. Try to highlight some of that filigree. Make these shoulder pads have a little bit of a shine to them. I'm just stippling on that silver. As you can see, it's super bright. Very bright. This monster's coming together. Now I'm going to take some contrast paint. I'm going to take the skeleton horde and I'm going to hit all the bone areas. I've actually not really used this very much, so I'm excited to see how it turns out. I really do enjoy contrast paints. And of course, I'm going to take this same color and I'm going to kind of throw it in other parts of the model too, not just the bone. I can't help myself. Going for the bandages, going for the sword. You name it, I'm doing it. I'm going to take some Nolan oil, which is a black wash. I'm going to start putting that around the teeth of these skulls. It's a nice way to make the teeth stand out. I'm going to jam some in the eye sockets as well. And of course, I'm going to put a little bit of it on the armor and other parts of the model as well. Not too much, but here and there. Just adding colors, richness, depth. I guess black doesn't really add richness, but it should help the other colors stand out a little bit more. Let's get underneath this rib cage here. Get in between these vertebrae. Helps kind of dark line the vertebrae a little bit by just using this wash. This will help separate those ribs and the different parts of the model. Look at this dark and dingy guy. Now I'm going back to the Gun Corpse Brown that I used for the wood color, and I'm going to start painting those wooden spikes coming out of his shoulder pad. I didn't do this earlier because I didn't want to get a bunch of metal all over the brown. I would have had to have gone back and painted this again, so. I'm going to take some Roulet Gold, and we're going to start dabbing this onto the brown areas. This trim is kind of what I'm doing in gold. Just dabbing it on. You can do it pretty darn quick. Not worrying about blends. And that silver dry brush underneath will show through a little bit, so that'll make that gold be a tiny bit shiny. He's getting there. Now I'm taking some of that lighter bone color again and I'm going to hit all the teeth. This will help make those teeth stand out a bit. Having the teeth a little bit different color or a little bit lighter of a color on a skull will help the skull stand out a little bit more. And we're going to reinforce the nose and the brow as well. And of course, the bone crown, because that's cool. Man, I love this mini. It's so fun. I'm going to take some of that rucksack tan again, and I'm going to dry brush this all over the wooden parts. Just going quick, not worrying about it too much. It's been a blast. I've been having a lot of fun with this. Just going and going and going. Dry brushing that lighter tan on those brown areas. Makes them stand out just a little bit more. Now I'm going to take some of that lighter tan and we're going to do some edge highlighting. So we darkened down the tan so much by doing all the washes and stuff. So now we can just put that tan color on, maybe mixed with a little bit of a off-white, and we can do the edge highlighting and it stands out quite a bit. Well, quite a bit compared to what they were looking like. I'm going to take some Seraphim Sepia and I'm going to start doing the same thing. I'm going to start putting that over the wraps and over a little bit of the entire model, except for the cloth. Just throwing it here and there and having fun. Dabbing it in the wood areas, putting it on the armor. Of course, got to keep throwing colors on the sword. Take some solid gold from P3. This is a brighter gold, and we're going to stipple on brighter parts of the gold trim. You can see it's popping a little bit. Now I'm going to add some of that aluminum, that really bright silver color, to my brighter gold. We're going to add a little bit more highlight to the gold, just in tiny little areas. Then for some reason I got sidetracked with this Arena Rex model. Now I'm going to take some orange and mix it with an off-white, and we're going to dry brush the cloth areas. I'm going to paint these red, and I like doing this to add a little bit of depth to the red when I put the red on top. It'll give the red cloth a warm look, and it'll provide a few highlights for me without having to do much after I put the red on. Here you can see I just ended up getting the brush out and defining some of those lines. Alright, now it's time for the red. So I'm taking Scorn Red base paint and I'm taking some red ink and we're just going to paint right over those cloth areas. As you can see, that yellowish color is shining through a little bit and giving us a quick highlight. Speed painting is all about fun. Just go for it, see what happens. You will learn things in the process. Some things might surprise you, good or bad. But what I hope does surprise you is that you have a really good time and then you have a finished model at the end. And it gives you the courage to just knock out more. Try not to get hung up on everything looking so perfect if you just want to get stuff done. This is really just one or two thin coats of red on top of this cloth, and I'm pretty happy with it. And we're not really going to do a whole lot after that with the cloth. I think it's looking nice. I like that red cloth. The back really looks good, I think, for that cloth. But we're going to take some sanguine base and contrast medium, and we're going to just reinforce the shadows just a tiny bit. I'm going to put that in the shadow areas. So all on the underneath side, just tapping it in a little bit. Put it in a lot of the grooves. And boom. There we go. No! Blue tack, what are you doing? All right, let's get some new blue tack. Ah, much better, much better. Yeah, so anyways, he's looking cool, I think. I decided I wanted to reinforce the bone again, so I'm doing that edge highlighting again. Got carried away with all the washes and stuff, so just reclaiming some of that lighter color again. What is this, the third time I've done this? Let's reinforce his brow too, and some of these other lines with a darker color. I'm going to take some orange ink and an orange color, We're going to dab it at that little plate on the chest there, and now I'm actually going to take some Heartfire too. We're just going to dab it on there. Just want a little orange color to it. And then let's just finish off some of the final details here. We're going to finish off these shields. Of course, add a little bit more rust to the swords because it's fun. Pokey pokey. Yeah, I think he's looking good. Now we gotta get this base figured out. Why in the world did I not base him before I primed him? I do it all the time. I have no idea. So let's try to pry this guy out. And not the smartest thing to do. Got a blade really close to my fingers here. Don't cut yourself. Don't. Hey, oh. Wait. Ow. Oh. All right, let's try from the bottom. I'm going to try to cut away at the bottom part a little bit here. The super glue is doing his job. Hey, check it out. I got one side done. Yay! Let's do the other. Oops. Yeah, pick those up quick. Don't let those sit around on the floor. Alright, so I took another blade and threw it in my X-Acto knife, and I have been fighting and fighting with this thing. Oh, don't cut yourself. That blade's right by your finger. Not smart, Brian. Not smart. Let's get some pliers. I'll try to push through with the pliers on the underneath side. Hey, there we go. That did it. And I didn't cut my fingers. How about that? So what are we going to do with this base? Let me get out some green stuff. I like to keep mine in a container to help keep it fresh. And we'll start rolling up some green stuff. I think I'm going to grab a green stuff roller, which will automatically just kind of roll over the green stuff and give me some stone work. Now that I think about it, we need to get some bits on this thing. I think I know what I want this thing to do. Let's find my bits. Oh yeah. I know what I'm going to do. We're going to grab a gold pile. This boss monster needs to be protecting a pile of gold. So I wasted a lot of this green stuff because, check this out. The gold pile covers most of the base. Oh well, that's okay. We'll fill in this gap. When you're doing this, one of the things I like to do is wet the bottom and rub it on a flat surface, and that'll help you get a flat base. And I'm going to glue on the gold. I'm going to make sure that I can get the skeleton to fit on there okay. So just kind of do a dry run of making sure he can fit, which he will. I'm going to cut off all the little pegs and stuff underneath his feet. Some of them anyways. Most of them I do. That way he can get some flat surfaces for his feet to go down on. And I took some primer and we are painting this base real quick. And I gotta wait for this to dry now. That's supposed to be a clock. So what in the world do I do with this extra green stuff? Well, I tell you what, I will do something in a future video with it. So now I'm just saying forget it. I'm not going to wait too much longer. I'm going to throw some gray color down to paint up that tile. I'm going to take some brown, cover up that gold area. Now I'm going to take some of that gold color and I'm going to dry brush that on. As you can see, the gold's getting shiny already. I'm going to go back to that super bright silver color, mix it in a little bit with my gold, and we're going to dry brush that on top. And then I'm going to take the super bright gold, and I'm going to dry brush that on top. This gives you different variances of the shininess of gold. Did that make sense? I think it made sense. Take some brown, we're going to throw that on the stone slabs here. I'm I'm going to take a different brown and throw it on the slabs as well. Just stippling and throwing it around. Took some black. Gonna dark line the lines on there and also just put that on the base as well. Stipple that on there. And we let that baby dry. Before I forget, we got to paint the base rim. I'm going to throw some of that black on the base again. Just muddying this thing up a lot. Now we're going to edge the base with this light gray color. And then on top of the base, we're going to edge the stonework as well. Use the side of your brush if you can. It's a little easier for edge highlighting. And as you can see, it makes that stone pop a bit. We're going to start stippling on some of this gray color to the actual stonework too. Just giving it more color and depth. It's a fun process. There you go. Not too bad.
You know what time it is. Time for the pug test. She just wanted to play. One of these days I'm going to get her to like a mini. One of these days. And not like it as in eat it, but just like it. I don't know. So we got this big bad boy done. I love the mini, absolutely great. I had an absolute blast. I recommend everybody going out there, grabbing one of those minis on your shelf and just getting it done. Don't worry about being perfect, don't worry about perfect blends, and just worry about having fun. Just go for it. As you can see with this bone golem, I just had a blast. It was kind of sloppy, I just went for it, just had a lot of fun. Made the huge mistake, of course, by not basing the model first. I do that way too often, I don't know why. About cut my fingers off with the X-Acto knife. Not smart. Not smart at all. Doing this skull golem was so much fun. I just had a blast. I have always loved this miniature and it has sat there and stared at me for years. Well, I hope you all had a good time. You know I had a blast making this video. Are you happy now? I don't know how to take that. As always, thanks for joining me. I totally appreciate it. Like and subscribe. That way you can keep seeing more videos that I keep coming out with. I will see you next time. Hobby and have fun. And thank you. Hi, I'm testing audio. So there's been a... Come on, I've been busy, I've been doing stuff. I mean, you know, life got in the way, yada yada, got my